the 2020 Teacher of the Year. How does that feel?
Well, first off, I was very surprised that I won. 2020 was a very unconventional year for me as an educator. Obviously, we had COVID. We were teaching virtually to students who did not have access to internet. So when I would log on to Zoom, my kids would be in the parking lot at McDonald's using their Wi-Fi at 7 o'clock in the
Yes.
morning. And because we lost so many teachers in 2020 because they were afraid of COVID, my principal, knowing that I will absolutely do anything for these kids, said, Miss Day, I need you to step away from sixth grade English and I need you to take this ESL position.
Just to clarify, ESL is English as a second language?
Yes, that is such an important job at my school because 70% of our students, their first language is Spanish. And I cried and I said, I'll do it, but I don't think I'm fit for this position. And I want these kids to get an education. They are so deserving. I spent like a week and a half trying to make this Zoom function and it wasn't working. And so I went up to my principal and I said, I need your permission to go into these homes. This is not fair. This is a lack of equity. Not only do these kids not have internet access, but how am I supposed to even get them on Zoom by sending them directions in a language that they don't understand? So what I
Yeah.
did is I got that permission and I applied for a grant for these translating devices. They look much like AirPods. I would put one in, a student would put one in. If I would speak English, it would translate immediately to Spanish or
Wow.
English to
Right.
Spanish. Instead of being in my classroom on Zoom, I started knocking on doors and going into those students' houses. And the most beautiful part about that is I wasn't just getting to interact with these kids face to face and to help them learn English and also adapt to the culture in this country, but because their parents and their siblings were home, I was also helping educate their families. And it was a really beautiful and personal opportunity that I got. And I think that my staff probably voted for me for Teacher of the Year because I did go above and beyond. And I did get thrown into a position that I wasn't necessarily equipped for, but I made it work. I made deals with my students that for every certain amount of words you guys will learn in English, I would love to take a few minutes for you to teach me your native language as well. So I got to learn from their families also. And the greatest thing about my ESL position is a lot of students that speak Spanish or come from other countries are told to leave it at the door, that you need to speak English first, you need to learn the American way. But I tell my students that where they come from is unforgettable and they need to tie that into where they, to America, and they need to remember their first language because it's going to make them more successful and able to communicate with so many different people. So I just think the way I went about that teaching position during a very hard COVID teaching year laid that award into my hands, but it was a huge honor.